Smarties, we're really excited for you to hear this conversation with Gigi. Gigi is a client of Steph's at M.Ed Therapist. Gigi's mom, Laura, joined us on episode 198, and that episode was titled Trusting Your Parental Instincts and was a part of our success story series. We've gone ahead and linked that episode in the show notes. It's a really nice companion episode to this conversation. In this conversation, Gigi shares her version of her story and how she came to work with Steph and why she enjoys her sessions with Steph so much. She shares how things have evolved since she started working with Steph, and we talk about how important advocacy and self-advocacy has been for her. We talk about her natural affinity for leadership. You'll see that in this conversation. And she also talks a lot about why mistakes are so essential for her learning and learning in general. We're really excited for you to hear this conversation. Gigi and Steph have a very special bond, which is totally evident in this conversation. If you are interested in working with us or one of our team members, go ahead and sign up for a phone call. At Steph's practice, her website is www.myedtherapist.com, and her team sees learners in person in their offices in Redondo Beach and Manhattan Beach, California, and of course, virtually everywhere. My practice is Kapp Educational Therapy Group. We see learners in person only in our offices, which are in Beverly Hills, California, and we see learners virtually everywhere. We specialize in learners 5th grade through adulthood who struggle with executive functioning skills challenges. Now, let's dig in.
You want to learn faster, but sometimes working harder is just not the answer. You have to learn smarter. The Educational Therapy Podcast.
Hi, Smarties. Welcome to episode 331 of Learn Smarter, the Educational Therapy Podcast. I'm Stephanie Pitts.
And I'm Rachel Kapp.
And I'm Gigi.
Oh, you're Gigi.
Yeah, she's Gigi.
Today, we are welcoming Gigi to the podcast. If you are a longtime listener, you may or may not remember that Gigi's mom came on the podcast. It was episode 198, where she talked about Gigi's journey. And today, 133 episodes later, we are welcoming Gigi to the podcast. So, welcome, Gigi.
Hi, guys.
Hi, guys. I'm excited to meet you. I feel like I've heard a lot about you over the years and have met your mom, so it's nice to put a face to the stories and everything. But I think my favorite part about this whole thing is whenever we scheduled this episode, Steph was like, so Gigi wants to come on. And I told her I would talk to you about it. And I keep forgetting. And she keeps reminding me to talk to you about it. And I was like, yes, of course. If she wants to come on, we love it when we have clients come on the podcast. So let's start there. Why did you want to come on?
I don't know. I like being able to share my story. I think it's very special to have the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, I love it. And I love that you had that goal-directed persistence, which is something we always talk about, to follow up with Steph, who dropped the ball on it.
So originally the conversation happened when we were having our break from podcasting. And so I told her, okay, I'm going to try to remember, but you might need to remind me.
Because when Steph and I don't meet twice a week on the podcast, those types of things do fall through the cracks. Yeah.
So she remembered, she followed up with me. And here we are.
I love it. So why don't we start at the very beginning and you can introduce yourself and share what you feel comfortable sharing about your story and really how did your relationship with Steph get started and what it's been like. So, say everything, I guess, is what I just said.
We started in 2021.
What grade were you in?
I was in 4th grade.
Okay, so you were in 4th grade. You started in 2021. Just for context, we are recording this in August of 2024. So how old are you now?
14.
Going into?
8th grade.
8th grade. Got it. All right, go on.
During that, it was going into Zoom. Well, it was all on Zoom. And it was very hard to learn then, even if I had a good teacher. It was very hard to learn in that atmosphere. I think we all had that in the beginning of COVID. And then my mom was pushing to get me tested for dyslexia. And they're like, no, she's fine, because I'm really good at masking it. Like, I'm good at showing that I don't have it. I'm like, oh, no, she's fine. She's fine. She's totally fine. And then we started working with you. And then you were like, okay, you need to test her. Turned out we had it. I had it. And then my mom pushed for an IEP. We got it. And then basically you helped me move on from that and help me learn from that experience. So I think that's very cool.
Yeah. So when you first came in, you were a little dude. And I don't often take little dudes anymore, but I took you on. And turns out we're neighbors. And sometimes we walk home together from the office, which is, we do.
That's so
Yeah,
cute.
we do. She drops me off at my house because hers is further. And when you first came in, reading was really, really hard. And so was math. But reading was really hard. You hated it.
Yeah, I did. I think it was because, like, every time I read, it was just like, oh, I can't read. I don't want to do this. And, like,
it was hard.
if I can't even read it, yeah. Like, what's the point of reading if I can't even read it?
So when you first came in, we started working on sounds and helping you learn how to decode, which is making the sounds and putting them together to make the words, right? And we did it in a lot of fun ways. We did a lot of games. We did a lot of jumping around.
I was going to say, did Steph put you on the thing?
On the trampoline.
On the trampoline to bounce.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you jumped off onto sounds and we could see how far you could jump or how high you could jump and, things like that. And multiplication was a really hard one, right? Like knowing your math facts. And so we started singing.
Did you skip counting?
Oh, yes. She knows all of them.
Yeah.
Did the skip counting with the songs. We were even practicing this summer just to like refresh.
Yeah.
As time has gone by and you have medical stuff as well that has caused you to miss some school. And that has been, an important part of your journey to help you stay with your peers, with, what you should be, learning when you can't go to school and all of that. So that's one of the things that you and I have been working on. Sometimes, we were working on math before you even learned it so that it made it easier.
Yeah.
And so I think telling your story is important. And I want to talk about a couple of things. I want to talk about you were always open. You were always very willing to come. You liked coming, even when it was breaks. You never canceled. You still wanted to come. Being sick, you've probably missed only a handful of times. And I see you twice a week. And the thing that I think is different is that you knew you needed help and you knew it was hard and you were willing to let me in. And that is not always easy for a lot of kids to trust adults.
Yeah.
To feel like it's okay that I don't know this. And what would you say to other kids that might be feeling like this is really hard, I don't like it?
That's a good question. I think you should be aware that, like, you have a hard time with it. Do your best. Always do your best constantly. Even if you don't succeed, that's when you learn from it, and you just have to be willing to learn from your mistakes. Before we started, I would make a mistake and I'd be like, oh no. And then I wouldn't learn from it. And then I would keep making that same mistake over and over. But if you're willing to learn from your mistake, you're more open to learning new things.
You and Steph have a really special rapport. What do you think are the reasons for that? How do you think that emerged for the two of you? I actually think probably walking home together is part of it. That's a special thing. But what else would you say?
Well, I'm an only child, so I have been hanging out with adults my entire life. And I just connect with them more, so it's easier to connect to adults for me. So I think that's why we clicked better.
Steph, what do you think?
Well, her mom is also a couple months within age of me. So I think we know about a lot of the same things from when we were growing up that like Gigi seems to know about. Like she knows about like the old good stuff, you know?
Totally.
Yeah. She's really into
Lisa Frank.
Yeah, she's really into music. She's got a lot of fashion sense. Re-listened to part of the episode together the other day.
Yeah.
And I heard myself...
Which we've linked that episode in the show notes for this episode if people haven't had an opportunity.
I heard myself say she's got this fashion sense and she's way cooler than me. And she still is. She's just way cooler. She's just a very cool kid.
You're pretty cool.
Oh, well, thanks for that.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice of you.
Thanks for that. Thanks for that. I think a lot of kids are scared and their parents are scared and worried about them. And when it's so hard, they don't know what to do anymore. And they get in fights with their parents. Did you get in a lot of fights with your parents about schoolwork and homework and stuff?
Oh my gosh, totally. Every night. Mm-hmm. Every night.
So talk to us a little bit about what those fights were about. Was it about you getting started or you completing it? Or was it about maybe like you avoiding it because it was hard or difficult? You didn't know what was being asked of you? What was it about, would you say?
Pretty much all those things. I would come home from school not knowing a clue about what they taught me because I learned a different way and they weren't teaching that way. They weren't supplying that way. So I would come home not knowing a clue about what they just taught me because I don't learn that way. My parents would try to help me. They don't know how to teach that either. So then I would go to Stephanie and she would help me learn it in a different way. Like I remember with math, in every time I would come to you, you were like, why are they teaching you like this? This makes absolutely no sense. I mean, I would come there too and be like, exactly. Like,
right? It doesn't make sense, right, Steph? Very validating.
Yeah, it is. Like, very validating.
I was thinking about, I taught you how to do integers a different way. And your teacher was trying to teach you this really complicated way. And I gave you, there's like 5 rules to follow. And then I just said, just do it, even though your teacher doesn't want you to do it that way, because I'd rather you understand it. And you also listened. You wanted to understand, like that has been always important to you rather than the grade.
Yeah. In my opinion, if you understand it, you're going to get good grades. So I don't really care about grades. I care about my understanding and how well I do. And especially my mistakes, because then I learn from them, you know? So I think it's about the learning process more than it is about the grades.
The outcome. We talk about that a lot on this podcast, that if the learning process, like you said, is well established, the grades will come. But grades are a lagging metric. It tells us after the fact. It doesn't tell us before. But your ability to sort of share before the grades reveal the truth is really, really commendable. Something that I'm noticing in this whole conversation is you seem to have a real ability to advocate for yourself. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I mean, it is life, you know, so I want to be able to have a part in standing up for myself.
Preach, queen, preach.
Whether that is with friends, with people that are like not being nice, whether that's with health stuff, whether with that's learning like differences, you know, like I want to be a part of it and know stuff about it.
And you feel comfortable communicating that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing that I think is a little bit different about your journeys, because you don't need to say what, but you've had some health stuff your whole life. So you've had to talk to adults and doctors.
Answer questions
and things far more than your average 14-year-old, like than your friends, right?
Yeah.
And you getting used to being very in tune with your body and learning what you wanted has been an incredible part of your journey. A lot of times I think kids don't advocate for themselves because they don't know what they want.
Yeah.
You do know, but you don't always know. But sometimes you and I talk through what you might want.
Yeah, exactly. I remember in 6th grade, it was like the first IEP meeting of the year. And like, I went to it because I wanted to be a part of it.
I remember.
And yeah, it was very good to be like a part of that, to know what my IEP list is, like knowing what strategies I can use, you know?
Yeah. And we talked about it beforehand, like what you might want. what you might feel like works for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Bravo to you. The thing I want people to hear in this episode is that ed therapy has changed a lot in your life, for sure. But you're a kid that is a natural born leader. And I think others listen to you. I mean, even in the office, when there's like little dudes, like little dudes there, you talk to them and teach them stuff. And just like when we walk by them, as we're walking into the office, we see them and you're like talking to them or teaching them something all the time. And because you're a leader, I want you to really put out there that if parents have kids that, are really worried about, learning is hard. What do? You don't have to be scared of it. What would you say? What would be your number one recommendation? Let's say other little dudes, the little dudes that are sitting at the table at the office, like those little dudes, what would you say to them if they were scared of coming to ed therapy?
They're there to help you, and it's okay if you don't know the answer. That's what they're there for. They're there for you to get better. Doesn't matter how many mistakes you have made, they will help you learn from those mistakes. Like I've said that constantly in this episode, but it's really important. And they're there to help you. They're just not there to teach you new things, add to your list. They're there to help you with the things you don't understand.
Yeah. And I think it's okay that you don't understand. I think that that's what you're telling them. It's okay that you don't understand. And Gigi helps me test out games. I just want to say that. She's like this is a good game. This is not a good game.
We all need that because you can't practice them in isolation.
Yeah, for sure. So she helps me with a lot of the games. So kudos to her. So if you hear about games on the podcast, she's definitely tested them out. Gigi approved.
Gigi, do you know offhand what some of your favorites are?
Taco Cat Code Cheese Pizza.
She loves Taco Cat Goat Cheese Pizza. Yes, she does.
Okay.
And the Color Coup, it's like Sudoku, but with colors.
Ooh.
We play that a lot. And that's how I got her to get into Sudoku, because she was very anti-numbers math and
interacting with the numbers.
And so we started with the colors. And then all of a sudden she asked her parents to get her a Sudoku thing, and she was doing it.
She just needed that entry point into understanding the rules of the game without the burden of having to look at numbers at the same time.
Exactly. We just played it the other day because
I already did the Sudoku on my phone 5 times this morning with numbers.
Yeah, see?
If I'm feeling a challenge, I do 16 by 16. Those are my favorite if I have a lot of time.
16 by 16. Wait, so that's 4 by 4s?
It goes up to 9. Sometimes it'll go up to 16 or 9 to F, E.
Oh,
so it's like letters and numbers?
Yeah.
Oh, Gigi, you advanced. I don't know.
She is. She. It all started with Color Coup, and
yeah,
and she always picks the hardest one, and she makes my brain work real hard. So yeah. Look, and she's laughing. She totally knows it too.
So, Gigi, why don't you share a little bit? You're deeply mission driven. I see that in you, that you want to share your knowledge and you want to advocate for yourself and you want to sort of normalize things for people who may not know. So what would you share about what a typical office session with Steph is like?
Well, you come in and then you get situated in the office. Then there's a bunch of games, bunch of books. So if you're into reading, you can choose a book off the bookshelf, or you can pick a educational game. Most of them are educational. There are some games that are just for fun. And I think that's also a good way to get your brain working while having fun. Like with the trampoline, learning syllables while jumping off the trampoline.
Or we play basketball.
Yeah, or play basketball. That's my favorite one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that one's really fun. And then when we're done, we pull out my agenda, my homework, all of this stuff. Then we go down the list one by one. It's like, okay, what have I done? Pull that out and go over. What haven't I done? Pull that out, work on it one by one, see how I can learn new things about it. And then you do that basically the whole time. If you have extra time, you can read more. You can write about something. Stephanie will give you a prompt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then you go home.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm the executive functioning gal. I love hearing. Tell me more about your agenda. How has that made an impact for you?
Well, some kids at my school, they don't use their agenda. I'm like, how do you function like that?
Yeah.
And then they come to school, they have like one thing done.
Right.
Like, you need to write it down so then you know what you're doing. Like, I think that's really important.
She's really good about writing her homework down.
She's motivated.
Yeah. Sometimes we have to remember to check it off, but she's really good about writing it down. And we just had a conversation on Monday. This last year, she had a planner that we got customized for her, and it's a little bit clunky. So we're trying to make everything a little bit smaller for her so that she's not carrying so much stuff around.
You mean it's just bulky?
Mm-hmm.
It's like too big? Okay. How did you customize a planner?
Oh, online.
Where do you do that? On what website?
It's called Plum Paper.
Oh, we talked about this. Okay, go on.
So it had her classes in there. It had like a to-do list. It had all these things so that she customized it and made it all her own. But we had this conversation on Monday about we're going to try the school one again because it's really tiny if there's enough room to write. So we're in this like transition phase to see, because the planner that she had last year was very successful for her.
Okay, what did you like about the planner that you had last year, Gigi? What worked about it?
I feel like it was very organized. You could write stuff like birthdays in there, all that stuff. Be good. It's pretty functional. I think this size is intimidating in a way.
It's just too big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Why not a digital planner?
Mm-hmm.
I like visual paper copies, you know?
Uh-huh.
I don't know why. I feel like it just works more with me.
Does it work better, or is that what you're familiar with?
It just works better for me. I've tried doing it on the computer. Like, my parents send me an email. I don't look at my emails on my phone, you know? I normally look at like handwritten notes.
We had a conversation about it again on Monday, 2 days ago. I asked her the question and she very adamantly advocated that she wanted paper. And so I said, okay, you got it. Let's try to find something that's going to work as well as the planner that she had. So we're going to test it out. The digital, not yet. And that's okay. Because at some point, you're going to have to use digital along with paper if you really want to have paper. You can't just have paper these days. But you can cross that bridge when you get there. And right now, that's okay.
Here's what I'm hearing. You're responsible. Steph trusts you to use your paper planner. She trusts you to bring it to session. She trusts you to have it in those moments. I think really when we get insistent on digital is when those other factors aren't there. But cool. I'm now like playing around on the plum paper.
They're very cool because you could put like to-do lists. We put all of her classes in the order that they were.
So you were able to write that in?
It's all customized. So she didn't have to go, oh, here's history. And then her second class is English, which was at the bottom. Like you can put them in the order that you have the classes. So that's helpful as well.
That's cool. So can I ask some more questions about this? So she has a schedule that's consistent. Mondays are Mondays, Tuesdays are Tuesdays, or how does the class schedule work at your school?
Last year, it was like 1 through 7. This year, we're doing block schedule, which I'm on the edge about. I think I like it, but also don't. So Mondays, it's 1 through 7. Like Tuesdays and Thursdays, it's 1, 3, 7. Wednesdays and Fridays,
2, 4, 6.
Yeah, 2, 4, 6. I think that's going to be helpful, like memorizing stuff. But it's a big jump for the teachers too. Like they have to teach hour-long sessions.
It allows everybody the opportunity to dig in a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly.
I went to a block schedule school, but my school was A week, B week. So every other Monday was the same. That's not something you need to burden yourself with remembering the schedule because you're going to have it written down. So you know where to go every day. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Gigi, is there anything else you want to share about?
Well, I think Stephanie, to me, at the beginning, she was like this educational therapist. But now that I've gotten to know her over the past few years, I think of her as a friend and a mentor to me. I feel comfortable talking to her in a sense, which I think that's important for a role model.
I texted Steph 2 things. Steph, did you see my text?
Yeah, I wrote back.
Okay. So I texted Steph, you're right, she is cooler than us.
Yep.
And then the second thing that I wrote is...
You guys are pretty cool.
No, well, we appreciate it. The second thing I wrote is I predict that Steph is going to hire you one day. I think you're going to come into the practice. I think you're going to into my ed therapist, and I think you're going to be able to teach others the way that you've learned as well. And I think you'll also really enjoy sort of that full circle opportunity to give back. But I see that in your future.
Thank you.
I'm going to keep you in mind for things.
We've talked about it.
Oh, have you?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, see how I knew?
Mm-hmm. What did you tell me, Gigi?
I am trying to look for jobs because, 14, turning 15 next year, I want to get my driver's permit.
Yeah.
I really want to drive. So, yeah.
It was a few years ago. We talked about how she said at one point, she was like, I want to be an ed therapist like you. I don't know if you remember saying that, but you did. And I thought I could see that in her future too. I had a me in my life when I was in about 7th grade, and I can't find her. I wish I could, because I would love to tell her. But I basically had an ed therapist. She just wasn't an ed therapist. So I think, Gigi, you've got a very cool perspective. And I think that you understand a lot of things beyond your years. And I do think that other kids can learn a lot from you. And so I hope that the parents and the other kids can listen to when you really share your story. And if you can do it, other kids can do it too.
I do have a question for you.
Oh, here we go.
What prompted you to be an ed therapist?
There were a couple of teachers in my life that were very, very important to me. 2 of which I'm still in very close contact with. Like, one texted me yesterday. And those 2, and the woman, her name was Liza. When I went to private school from public school, I was really behind. I was 3 grades behind my peers. And so my parents had me go see Liza, and I went several times a week. And I needed to learn how to learn because I didn't know. I was masking it and faking it just like you were. And I lost touch with her after I graduated out, and then I couldn't find her. And as the opportunities presented themselves to become an ed therapist, like, it was a roundabout for me, but that is ultimately, I would say, those 3 teachers in my life made me want to become an ed therapist.
And then you had to learn about it.
Yep.
And she had to know that it was a career.
And it existed. But when I found out about it, yes.
It's a good question.
Teachers are the most important thing in the school. Like, if you don't have a good teacher, that class is miserable.
You don't like the subject either.
Yeah.
That's what ends up happening too. Yeah.
Well, I can like any subject as long as I have a good teacher. If I have a bad teacher, I hate math. But if I have a good teacher, I love math. And I normally love math, even though I'm not the greatest at it. But like, if I have good teachers, like, it's the most important part.
I think you're going to be a very special advocate for kids in your class because you're going to see them and experience them maybe in a unique way. So excited to get to watch what happens with you.
She's a cool kid.
Thank you.
Perfect. So will you do our signature sign off, which is have a great week, Smarties?
Have a great week, Smarties.
Have a great week.
Thanks for being here, Gigi. Have a great week.
Yes, thank you.